Everybody, your saltwater guide, Captain Dave Hansen, with my guest host, Michael Fowlkes from the History of Sport Fishing, and the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Roy Rose and the hairdo. We got a great show for you today, everybody. Yes, that hair is real. We answer that question every time on this show. That is real hair. It looks a little different today, though, Roy, because it's kind of laying down because you just got out of the shower.
Yeah, that's right. It hasn't really had a chance to expand. Well, once it dries out, it'll get back to normal.
Yeah, we'll be watching it grow during the show, like a chia pet.
Like a chia pet.
Yeah,
That's it.
So I want to introduce the two of you guys. I know you've never met each other before. Michael Fowlkes, Roy Rose. Roy, Michael.
Nice to meet you, sir.
What is that? 20 years?
Yeah, no, more like probably closer to 35, because I remember you're both the instinct.
Yep. We're going way back, 35 years.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
Remember that night we were out there at the cross, like 250 miles from Point Loma? It was just blowing like hell. And we're in this little 46-foot boat, and we're just getting the shit kicked. We're getting kicked. And Frank gets on the horn and says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm trying to get back to Point Loma." And he goes, "Tuck in here behind us and just stay tight." So we tucked right in behind you guys and rode your wake the whole way home.
Oh, nice.
It was pretty cool.
Back when we were catching those extinct fish, the albacore.
Facing the albacore, yep.
Yep, another species that's extinct, like the sea bass, the bluefin, the sand bass. Yep. This could be the year, though. We could see them this year. I say that every year. You never know what's going to happen again.
Well, the chovies are coming back, so.
Yeah, those have made a heck of a comeback.
Yeah.
I bet people sending me pictures of all the bays up north.
Chug.
Yeah. Long Beach Harbor, all that stuff up in there. You can see them gilling around like massive schools.
You just got back from helping us break the internet, Roy. You just got back from that 15-day trip. We went live that Saturday morning with you driving around. That was incredible. We watched you guys.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Wahoo.
That was so cool.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, the day before we roamed around and that fish was showing up later in the afternoon, like late morning, 11 o'clock, 10:45, 11. And anyway, we got lucky that day. They showed up a little early and we got a few bites.
Yeah, you did. I think we ended up live on the show in 2 hours. You had 12 jig strikes. You caught one on a fly rod. It was insane.
Yeah, that was. It's funny. That gentleman, Andy, he kept bringing that. Like as soon as everybody was done fishing, he'd whip out that fly rod and get a few casts in. And then while we're pulling the anchor right here, he's like, "Whoa, on the fly!" And I was like, "What?" So then I told Tim, and we got it on video.
Yeah, we did.
It was like being there for us, sitting here on the beach watching you guys work. It was so cool.
Yeah, no, it was fun. Like I said, just getting the room, drive around, get the meter. I wasn't very talkative that day because I was busy looking at all the meter and not what the heck's on it.
Well, Tim was making sure we knew exactly what was going on, and then you were doing your thing. You were the captain. You were doing what you needed to do. You were keeping on that fish, like you and I talked about during the show, how you were tracking that fish. You were letting people on the inside of the wheelhouse. Michael Fowlkes and I talked about it afterwards. Nobody has ever done that where we got to be inside. Even when Michael was filming Inside Sport Fishing, you didn't get up in the wheelhouse and hang out and watch you work that photometer and the sonar and tracking that wahoo up the bank like that. That was so fun. Thank you for letting us.
You're welcome. No, that's first of many to come, and it's good having Tim there because he's a perfect narrator. He was like the Michael Fowlkes of narrating on that trip.
Yeah, Tim is an eloquent speaker for sure.
Oh, yeah. He's good at it.
Yeah, my dad loved him. Loved bringing him with him to those meetings where we were trying to keep fishing open because he can talk and he knows what he's talking about. So it was perfect. Him and my dad were a great team to keep that fishery open, man. We almost lost that fishery, that bluefin fishery. Could you imagine Roy, if we weren't allowed to fish bluefin, where this industry would be today?
Oh yeah, I can't. You can't even fathom.
No.
It's you can't even fathom what how many boats would be left.
Yeah.
I mean,
A lot of the people that are watching don't understand. You were there. Michael was there. I was there. 2014, gang. I know it's hard for you to believe this because there's so many people that have built these little 4-packs and 6-pack charter boats off of this bluefin. But in 2014, the limit was 0. You were allowed 0 bluefin for a little bit of time in 2014, which was pretty scary if you think about it, because along came 2015 and all holy hell broke loose. Roy, talk about what that was like. You've been driving up and down this Baja Peninsula for a very long time. That bluefin kind of, I know you guys were seeing fish of that 50, 60, 70-pound fish, but all of a sudden out of nowhere, here's 200-pounders everywhere, right?
oh yeah, no, especially up there around the Leah Clemente, it's like being on an 18-day trip. 16, 18-day trip where you every time somebody went in the water, they had a shot at hooking a 200 or 300 pound fish.
Yep.
And you look back there, you tell, okay, and normally it's funny, you get the people set up, you tell them at the beginning of the trip. Before it was, I used to like to tell people, okay, have your start with 40-pound, and then we'll work up from there. Back then we're catching 30 to 40 to 60-pound bluefin, which you could wind in all day long on that, or you'd have a good chance of landing them. But here it is, you stop on you say, okay, start throwing bait, and all of a sudden you look back there, and all you see is 150 to 250-pound fish. You're like, go grab your heavier pole, the biggest one you got.
Volkswagen.
Cut your trolling lures out, put some hooks on, start sliding that back there.
Yep.
And then something that those of us in the upper zone, that's this day and a half to 2-day boat thing, we didn't quite understand what you guys had been doing down below there on the ridge and all the way down to the hurricane and the Revillagigedos is fishing that kite. And all of a sudden, everybody, I'm sure you were laughing your ass off, Roy. Here's all these kite experts out of nowhere on these little Parkers and shit. You're like, dude, you weren't even born yet when we were doing this.
Yeah, it was funny because we were on 1-day trips. We'd always have that kite ready to go. We'd have 6 rods rigged up with double trouble. We didn't have flying fish, but no, as soon as if they boiled up, the kite was out. Even on a 1-day, because let's say we get done with boat work early, so Frank could always throw on some 1-days or some day-and-a-half trips, and I remember several trips where we caught everything on the kite. You wouldn't land anything on conventional tackle or even get bit. It was like pretty much just, okay, you're up next. You're up next. You're up next. And it's like one bite. Either you got them or you didn't, but you would just rotate through it. And at the end of the day, you end up with 15 or 20 nice fish.
You mentioned earlier about the double trouble. Tell me a little bit, or tell everybody how you came up with that idea, Roy.
Well, the very first one was on a long trip, and the porpoise were giving us the business. Our primary the hot bait was live flying fish, but we couldn't really get through them because the porpoise kept eating them as we were cruising along. 'Cause you idle around, you idle slow, and the flying fish come up to the lights. They come up to the edge of the lights, and then you get them that way. And we just weren't able to get many big ones, but the little ones they would let through. So it started just, you know what? I went and got a bucket of ice, put water in it, so I would kill them instantly so they looked pristine, and started dumping them in there. And I remember I put in there, between myself and the crew, we probably put like 40 baits in there. So then this was before the day of, we didn't really have, the crimps were just coming around for us. So it was all perfection loops, and the baits were small, so we're putting 70, 76, 91s. And it was funny because you pull them out, but jam a toothpick through their wings, staple them open, and hook them to the back of the neck and let them out. And I'll never forget the first set we put out there. It looked like a set of skis going out. And everyone, oh, that's going to get tangled up. I said, well, we'll find out. And so we put the first one out there, and I remember there was one hook that was a little bit longer just to try and offset it. So it was like just a hook length or half a hook's length is how we're starting out with it. Thing gets out there, gets into position, and all of a sudden, boosh! We get like 140 pounder. It's like, holy cow! So now it's full speed making these perfection loop double trouble rigs, and the long and short of it was we ran out of bait. I think we had 24 fish or something like that. I think 20 of them came off that kite on those the double tiny flying fish. So then a few years later, we're at it was Aleos Rocks, and I remember Rich Alden was on the boat because he wrote an article about it. But he didn't reveal the rig yet. Like, you know what I mean? So anyway, we're out there, and all the boats that were there, they were using single sardine hooks on the kite, and we're sitting there, and the things are boiling, and they're boiling right under the scupper. I mean, Collins is on the tank, and he's throwing an occasional bait out there. And it's literally every time you throw a bait, you'd see a boil, but they wouldn't hit the. We had the single sardine out there. And I'll never forget, there was this gentleman, he was walking by, and I always called him Colonel Sanders. So he came by with his dropper loop rig. And I said, come here for a minute, let's try something. And I cut his weight off, and I tied another hook. I didn't bother where sinker was, made him even, put two sides, said, let it go. Right where Collins' baits are landing. Put it right there, and it wasn't 30 seconds. Boom, he was bit, and I started laughing. I said, you got to be kidding me.
On
So
the
then,
D.
on the double sardines. So then I said, okay, yeah, come here, give me your pulls. I just started whipping these, not professional, spider hitches, just full speed spider hitches, cutting them down the middle and tying the hooks as even as you could. And it was like, you got to be kidding me. We ended up with, I think, 38 fish that afternoon. It was like when you were there fishing, the boats were getting anywhere from 14 to 20 fish a day max for all day fishing with fly line. They weren't really on to, back then we started using the squid and stuff, but they weren't on that. They were, for whatever reason, they just weren't biting. But as soon as you put that double sardine out there, they ate the hell out of it. So then the next day, we had a real nice day. We had over 50 fish on that rig again, and then obviously then after that we left. But it was like I said, that was pretty cool to watch, and I never really had a good name for it other than the double sardine leader. But Tim started using it. He everyone's using the thing now, and then pretty soon Tim says, I got a name for that rig, and he goes, the double trouble. And I go, that's
Yep.
perfect, because he was using it at Guadalupe and doing extremely well on it. Like I said, this is all the infant stages of it when we first started with it. But now it's been a very, very good rig, and since then we doubled up on everything: double puffers, double 2-pound salamis, double flying fish, double pretty much anything. If we can get it out there, if we got enough wind, it's going out. With bigger baits, and they eat the hell out of it. We had a trip last it was 2 Marches ago where we had some nice tubes that we had and salamis, and we're putting it out there, and the deal was a tuna would boil on it, and if you missed it, a shark would eat it. So we had enough wind, so you know what? I got screw it. Let's put 2 salamis out there. So we put them out, put it out there, and all you see is the 4th of July under the kite bait, and then just blow out, then boom, the dude's lines just hooked up. Spool's half the reel, half of his 50's empty, his 50 wide's empty. It's like, what the hell? So pretty soon, after about an hour and a half, it's kind of windy. We're drifting off the bank, and it's like, what is this thing? So finally we get it up to color, and I look down, and I go, oh man, there's a shark chasing it. And we're pulling and pulling and pulling, and it gets closer, And no, we ended up getting a 210-pound yellowfin on one hook, and there was a 6-foot shark on the other.
Oh my
And
God.
this shark was just shadowing this tuna, and you'd watch the tuna. It was neat because he would like be calm, 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 and then he would just get a burst of energy, shake his head, and then go back on autopilot. And I was like, oh man, this hopefully he doesn't freak out and blow that leader out. And knock on wood, it didn't. So we wound it up, and that shark, he was absolutely drained. He looked like he'd gone 15 rounds with Tyson. He was just like, oh God, thank God. We got that yellowfin, and we got the shark cutter and cut him off, and he slowly swam away. But it was pretty intense watching that thing get drug around by that tuna.
Oh, that is hilarious.
Yeah, no, it was like, holy cow, I hope this leader can hang. Because then it was like, oh man, now we got there's a shark on the end. It's like, oh no, it's got a hook in its mouth. It's the other
Shark's
hook.
tuna.
Yeah, exactly. But that was pretty intense to see.
Think about this, you guys. You're listening to Roy talk about this. You're talking John Collins on the boat with you, chumming. So that means you were decking then. So this is how far
No,
back.
no. Collins. I was that guy. That guy is the master at slow ones. He, like I said, he's up there and he could without that little thing that we use now, the bleach bottle.
Right.
That dude stands up there. He looks like Steve Garvey. He's got forearms the size of my legs. He just slinging those things out there.
I don't think most people realize how important chumming is on a bite like that. Even if you're throwing a slow one, it's just that is so important to have somebody up there that knows what they're doing.
And
oh yeah, no, he's absolutely. And he'll sit there and he's okay. Dan, you got about 5 scoops left. You want me to go to the other box, or you want me to make this last? I go, you know what? Just keep doing what you're doing. They're biting, so we'll worry about that after.
Roy, I got a question because this blows my mind. Why the bleach bottle?
Well, because like let's say if there's no current or no wind, and you can just sling the bait out further. You can get it away from the boat further.
Oh, you mean the guys that don't know how to hold on to a bait can?
Well, I don't want to get into all that, but
Yeah, I'm sorry.
it's more efficient. Like I said, when you're chasing a school around, it's straight from the net over the rail, from the net over the rail. You know what I mean? Like we say, throw it good. That's not where the bleach bottle really has its purpose. But once you're settled in and you're throwing slow ones, you want to throw that bait as far down current as possible. That's just my personal take on it. You stop a school, yeah, you get them, then you start throwing it downwind. That way the fish get below you, and then the guys with the hook baits, casting upwind are getting bit. And if a guy can cast downwind, he gets in the corner and he gets bit every time. So that's just how I've always been taught. You want to throw it downwind.
We were taught the same way. Albacore fishing, that guy on the tank, he controlled the bite always. And you got to know 99.9% of sport boat and yachts drift stern first. So it's that downhill corner and as far off that corner as you can. And if you start, like I teach on my website, you start to think about it, gang, the boat is going to drift a boat length at a time. It's drifting right over that bait. If you're throwing it on that downwind corner, like Roy's talking about, you're throwing it off the corner at an angle. You're not throwing it up the side. I mean, you and I and Michael, we see people throwing bait all over the flipping place, and you're just like, what are you doing? There goes the school. Your head's about to explode. I got yelled at so many times and was made to cry because I wasn't chumming the right way.
It's like shooting a basketball. You want to hit that same spot every time if you can.
Oh, yeah.
And the captain would always come and look in the tank and go, what are you doing? What do you mean? One at a time on the corner. One bait. Count to 15. Throw another bait. Count to 15. Throw another bait. and just, like Roy said, as far off that corner as you could. And if we ever, well, just like what's happening today, Roy, with the rod on the rail, remember? Michael and I talk about this a lot. If that rod ever touched the rail, you got smacked hard in the hand. Don't
Oh
let
yeah.
that rod touch the rail.
Yeah, that was old school techniques.
Absolutely. You know what I find amazing now? You know, they show they got these guys in the Mediterranean, and they're popper fishing with these spinning rods, and they can't let the rod touch the rail. I see these guys hooking these 150 to 200 plus pound tuna on these poppers, and they're just they got their hands full till they get a photo and they get their lure back and cut it off. It's pretty intense watching them pull on them with them big spinning reels. They don't have the option of putting it on the rail.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And then one
Yep.
of our members are asking, personally, what's the biggest bluefin you've been a part of, Roy, when you were any boat that you've been on? What's the biggest bluefin you've seen? You've been on that East Coast stuff. Have you seen that 1,000-pound bluefin or
Yeah, no,
what?
I've never been involved in any of that. Over here, like 320 pounds is the biggest, which is a beautiful fish on either coast. I mean, that's a heck of a feat, you
Absolutely.
know. And that was caught, and that wasn't on kite gear. That was on 100 pound with a flat fall, you know, at night. So, that's what's so cool about this nighttime or this flat fall deal. You get on them schools of that bigger bluefin, and you got everybody rigged up with one. Like I like to say, people using 100 pound with 100 pound spectre or 130 to 130. That way, when we get into them 150 to 200 plus pounders, you can land a good majority of them. You'll slide on a school, you hook 10 of them. A couple might spit the hook, but you landed 8. You know, 180 to 250. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, and then I remember hearing a story one day. Someone was talking about how you guys were doing the flat fall thing on the boat you used to run, and you're like, "Give me that sinker." You grabbed a 12-ounce or a 16-ounce sinker, and you put a hook on it, and dropped it down there, and you were on. And then you created a whole. Besides the double trouble, the way I heard it, maybe I'm wrong. The whole just dropping a chunk of lead down there with a hook on it. That was kind of another Roy Rose kind of a thing, right?
No, that happened on accident, and and that happened with Loomis was driving, and Rollo put a 8-ounce torpedo sinker. No, it was Daryl put the sinker on the hook to get the backlash out, and he's then that boom. He gets the 60-pound the 60-pound bluefin ate it in the middle of the day. Um,
A stinker.
yeah, that's just the sinker. So
Oh,
then one thing I remember doing, we were at Clipperton, and when we couldn't catch any, we are trying to catch black skipjack, and we had the 2-fly rig with a sinker on it, and you'd get bit, but you weren't hooking them. And I was like, what the hell's going on? So then I remember I wound up and I looked at my sinker, and it was shiny. So I got rid of the sinker. I mean, the flies, put the hook on the sinker, and then that was the magic way to get them. So then we ended up just rigging everybody with that and throwing them in the slammer. And when the big tuna showed up after you catch your own fish around, and we're hooking a lot of 180 to 200-pound tuna, then we started digging into the slammer. You know, all our bait had died because the water was really hot. So all our baits were black skipjack and small rainbow runners.
they were eating the
And
runner.
yeah, oh yeah, they have no problem eating them. You know, baits up to 8 pounds. You know, those black skipjack are anywhere from 6 to 10 pounds. You know, you just pin him in the breast, throw him over the side, and hope for the best.
Hey, Roy, I've asked a
Yeah.
couple of guys this, and I'm not sure. You know, talked to Ted Dunn about it. He doesn't think it's the case, but these bluefin showed up about, what, 15, 16 years ago, 20 years ago? I can't remember exactly. But the first ones we saw were the 20, 30, 40-pound schoolfish. And then a year later we had those back again, and there were some fish in the 50 and 60 pound. And then the next year they got up to 80 and 100. So over 4 or 5 years, this fish that were hanging out here in Southern California off Mexico, they just seem to keep getting a little bit bigger every year. Do you think some of those fish respawn in the nets, and that's what sort of was the basis for this bluefin, the schools of bluefin we're seeing now, or do you think they came across from Japan?
Well, everything that we've been taught and
You locked up there.
that's research and all that stuff. A mature's got to be, I guess, over.
We lost Roy for a minute.
I'm dying for that answer too.
Yeah, well, we knew that was going to happen, right? It's a perfect time to show this. Gang, we can't do this show without Promar. Promar is a huge part of the show. And I got to show you guys something real quick here. And Roy will be back with us. I know it. I'm sure him and Lauren are figuring this out right now. So while we're waiting, I want you to see this. This is the rock cod squirts by Promar. We use these things all the time. We'll be using them on the Don Hansen Day on Thursday. I want you to check these out.
I don't know if you've been paying attention to our website, YourSaltwaterGuide.com, but if you go and you look through the community section and look at all the pictures of all the great rockfish that Justin's catching with all of his clients and all the members are using, they're using these rock.
Go ahead now. Michael wants an answer to that question.
Oh, about the
bluefin in the nets.
Oh, the bluefin in the nets. As much as I'd like to say yes, we gut and gill them. We catch them all sizes, all different sizes, up to 300-pound fish, and none of them have any eggs or sperm sacs in them.
Really?
None. Yep. We don't. I don't.
How big a fish?
All sizes, everything that you mentioned. We gut them all, and we're not seeing any of that stuff. Reproductive, or you know what I mean? Any reproductive signs of eggs or any of that stuff.
Huh.
I wish my dad was still around because he was really into all that. He was talking about they were raising little bluefin in petri dishes and stuff. They're getting eggs and stuff from some place over by Japan. But he would always tell me that fish isn't even like, I was all like proud. Oh yeah, man, we had 7 over 2 last night. And he'd go, those don't even spawn yet. I'm like, oh my gosh, so what? That's still a hell of a fish.
Really?
Yeah. He goes, those are babies. I go, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, gang, that QR code's up on the screen. You want to get those rock cod squirts. I didn't want to leave without the answer to Michael's question about the tuna pens, and if you think they're spawning in there, we're going to talk about that in a minute. But if you want those rock cod squirts, there's the QR code up on the screen. You save 15% on all the products over at Promar. We'll leave that up there for a little while we keep talking here. But what Michael was talking about, Roy, is, and I think he got cut off when he was talking about the pen fishery. And when they started putting those fish in the pens and dragging them over here, he was just, I think we lost, and maybe you did hear it, I don't know, but do you think that those fish had anything to do with all the fish following us into Southern California?
No. I think on my personal take on it is they're not wrapping them for. You don't have the Mexican purse seine fleet or the on this coast wrapping them up. 20 seiners that are capable of decimating an area and making it the fish, and then as soon as that fish became illegal and got protected, that's when the numbers, to me, I saw the numbers shoot up.
They got Mexicans had
they had. Yeah, go ahead.
They had their limits lowered, and that's when we saw the change, right?
Yes, but that's just it. Like the tuna pins, they don't. What they're taking is nothing compared to what was taken before. Right. Before that, Ensenada, Mazatlan, wherever, the Azteca fleet, 15 seiners, and they'd go out there, and if they'd get into an area, I mean, it looked like it was, you see 8 or 10 boats in sets, you know, and 5 or 6 helicopters up at one time. It was pretty gnarly being involved in all that, you know. In there, you're chasing a sonar school. I was going to swim into this guy who's it starts headed towards the west, and then you're tracking in. It's like, oh no! Now it swims into the chopper school. You know what I mean? It's like it was pretty crazy there for a while. I mean, from what I remember, you know, just all the helicopters. I'm surprised there weren't more accidents with the helicopters.
Yeah, it was crazy.
But we actually did see a few of those.
Yeah, it's crazy that unsustainable harvest.
Oh yeah, no, those guys are doing a number on it for sure.
Yep.
You guys both got to fish Guadalupe in the good days, back when it was open and you could fish there. Now, Grossbeck and Lasley tell me stories about how it was where you went for that bluefin, that 100-pound bluefin. That's what was there, and then all of a sudden it shifted and it went to yellowfin. Did you see that, Roy? Is that what you guys saw fishing there?
Yes. And I remember talking to Loomis about it, and Tim and I were talking about it because he got to work with Loomis before I did, fishing that Guadalupe, that tuna alley, that shallow water, and you'd watch them big giant, 100 to 300-pound bluefin just come right up in between those big rocks there, and they would hook them, but they back then with the tackle they had, they weren't very successful. They'd lose a heck of a lot more than they caught, that's for sure. And then, like you're saying, I was talking like Steve. As soon as that yellowfin started filtering in there, the bluefin like disappeared. It's like the bluefin that they were seeing around the islands, all of a sudden now it's offshore. So it's all just a big cycle that when you think about it, we only know about the last 100 years. 100. I mean, how long have we been fishing long range? From what, the 40s, the 30s? We don't know what went on before then. This is all could be just a big cycle. That could have happened 200 years ago. The same thing. It was straight bluefin over there. Then it switched over to yellowfin, and it's the same thing with this albacore here. It's gone for what? It usually disappears for 10 or 15 years. We're waiting for it to come back, but when it shows up, it's like nothing happened. It's like they never left. Something changes somewhere, and the current brings them down from Oregon and Washington, switches, and it comes back down here, and then we get in on the action, and those guys go dry.
And that's a perfect example of cycles, what Roy's talking about, gang, because everybody is so quick on it, pulling the emergency switch. It's the end of the world. Like, we just went through this giant hassle with the sand bass. And Roy, they got it down now to 4. They got us down to 4 sand bass now, and we're allowed 2 vermilion rockfish. There's so many spots where you can't even hit the bottom, and you got 2 vermilions on the way down. You don't hit the bottom. I mean, that sand bass is ridiculous trying to make bait. I mean, you guys have been blessed with the sardines for the last 10 or 12 years, but you remember sand bass would just glob on the 4 flies. You couldn't even make bait in a lot of bait spots because it would be straight sand bass. And you were telling us a couple of months ago, it's the same thing going on down there when you guys slide in there to Hippolito or somewhere, try to make bait. We lost Roy again. But
where's
cycle, right, Michael?
In Mexico?
Everywhere.
No, I mean, where's Roy calling in from,
No, from his house in San Diego.
Okay. You okay?
Yeah, I just took an ice cube down the wrong pipe. But Roy will be back with us in a couple seconds, gang. Don't worry. But this whole cycle thing, we talk about it so much. Michael and I talk about it. If you watch the history of sport fishing, gang, you'll see all this stuff we're talking about laid out perfectly. And you've got history of it all the way back to when?
The beginning of time.
Absolutely, gang.
Yep.
You got to check out the history of sport fishing. Everything. There he is. He's back. The man, the myth, the legend.
But you know, getting back to that about the bluefin and the babies and all that. You know, I remember, and Jim Hughes was big on this because he's like that when they were trying to impose that limit, and they're saying that the bluefin come from Japan and they don't spawn over here. They kept telling us, okay, well, we need evidence of small bluefin. So we were catching some at the Cortez Bank last year and a couple of years before that, but they're like 8-pounders.
Babies, yep.
Yeah, they were tiny, and we're throwing them back. But you know, if there was a mortally wounded one, we bring them in and have them the bluefin commission. You know, they always measure the fish at the dock and stuff, and we'd hand them over to them for samples. But they would still say they stuck to their guns. Now these are coming from Japan, and apparently they're coming across. They're making it across sooner. You know.
You think those little 8-pounders are migrating across the Pacific from Japan?
That's what they say. I mean, I like I said, the thing for me is we don't see any eggs. Like we're gutting and gilling 100-pound yellowfin, 60-pound yellowfin. They all got eggs in them. You know, let's say we're at Guadalupe, and we're catching tuna. We gut and gill them, and all that fish has got eggs and sperm sacs and egg sacs. All that fish. But with that bluefin, I don't see anything that has egg sacs in them, or the other sacs. You know.
They identify as woke, I think.
Yeah, they got to figure out when they're going to convert.
They're trans bluefins, trans-Pacific bluefin.
Shoot.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. I think Barbara Bach has done a bunch of studies with the bluefin up at Stanford. I know she's worked with AFCO and some of those guys about tagging them, and I haven't seen the results, but I talked to who was I talking to about it?
Ted? Is it Ted Dunn?
Ted Dunn, yep. Sorry, I had a brain hiccup there, but Ted says absolutely not. They are not spawning in the nets. So I don't know.
Well, Roy's not seeing any eggs, but it's hard for me to imagine that those little 8-pound bluefin. We had 1 million of them at Clemente back in 2015, 16, 17. There was a lot of those little baby bluefin. They look like bonitas.
It's like a big bonita.
And they swam all the way from Japan to get here.
I don't know. That's hard to believe.
Well, wherever they. Yeah, no, it is hard to believe, but I mean, we don't know exactly where they were, where they got it on at, and you know, made the eggs in the milk match. You know what I mean? We don't know when, or if they hit the right temperature on the way there and just got it on. I don't know. Like I said, all I know is what the scientists come up with, and what I can see when we're cleaning them is all.
And even on the bigger bluefin, Roy, no egg sacs, no sperm.
No.
Really?
Yeah.
And this is all year rounders. You know, whenever you're catching them, you're cleaning them and not seeing any signs of sexual maturity in them at all.
No. Nope. And at the same time, we're catching yellowfin all summer long and winter long, and they're already getting it on. They've already got the eggs and the sperm in them.
I'll be darned. Huh.
That is bizarre to think about. I never even thought of that. That's insane.
I mean, that
is insane.
Yeah.
I'd like to get Paul Hebert back on here and find out if when they're cleaning those fish back east, because they don't show any of that on Wicked Tuna. They don't show you any of those fish spawning. They don't even talk about it. And that's kind of like the hot button for you, Michael, and Roy. You guys, that's kind of the thing that everyone's trying to figure out. Where does this fish spawn at? You would think they would talk more about it on Wicked Tuna. If those 1,000-pound fish don't have any eggs in them either. What the hell's going on out here?
Or is it a seasonal thing? You know, I'm thinking maybe there's only a certain time, a few months out of the year where they're actually active, you know, sexually. I know it's all broadcast spawning, so it's just. I know we were in Baja and the striped marlin were all spawning down there one year, early spring. I think it was April, and there was just this whole center of area where it was just, I mean, thousands of striped marlin, and they were all spawning. You could see this. You could see the milk. You know, you'd be through it, and you just see all the milk in there. So it was like, it was insane. But I only saw it that way once, and out of all the years I fished down there, it was wide open for about 10 days during the spawning. And so I'm just wondering if the bluefin are the same way, if they're just sort of a secular, and they're
who knows? I know I've seen it at Guadalupe, where there's times where you're in the lee of the island and you see these big, massive breezers, and you'll see one breezer. It's an eighth of a mile away, you know, and you watch it swim right into another flat spot, and you watch these fish, and they're just shining on each other. They're like it's like they just collide. One flat spot swims into the other flat spot. And all you see is a bunch of shiners, and they're on their side, you know, going through each other. I mean, I'm not a scientist by any means, but, you know, you watch them, and you think, all right, we're going to throw bait on this thing, and you throw bait on it, and they don't give two shits about your sardines you're throwing over the side. They're just keep doing what they're doing. You might hook busy. 1 or 2 out of 10,000.
They're busy.
You know, whatever's in that school, they're busy.
You know what's unique, what you're talking about, Roy, is I had this conversation a month or so ago with Kelly. We were sitting watching these videos that I made, and I'm going, now see that? That's a breezer. Now see that? Those are shiners. Now see that? That's a flat spot. Now see that? That is puddlers. And now see that? That's a foamer. And she's going, what are you talking? It all looks the same to me, but it's so cool that you're saying that, because people that aren't on the inside don't really know what the hell we're talking about. A flat spot, a breezer, and then when they're shining, for me, I've always thought this, and now I know you do too. When we're seeing them shining, they're rubbing bellies, gang, and we're getting to see their belly, and it looks like it's shining, and they're rubbing their bellies, and I'd stand up in court, hold my hand on a Bible saying that they're spawning, because what else are they doing, rubbing their bellies on each other?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I just no, they're not interested in food.
Is it wrong for grown men to want to touch the underside of their bellies together?
3 miles off the beach, it's not.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, that like I said, but like what you're saying about the shiners and stuff, it's cool watching them, because I remember I got frustrated of just wasting time, so I'm just going to watch and see, and just watch. And you just sit there and you literally watch these two bodies of fish collide with each other, you know, and they're head on, and they're just going right through each other in slow motion, just shining away. And like I said, I would put money on it that they were, you know, dispersing eggs, you know, the other, you know.
Brent just wrote in and asked what a breezer was. Said he's new to this.
The breezer is when, let's say there's a body of fish that's swimming, and there's, let's say it's like 10 feet underwater, but there's so much fish, and they create a current, and it actually sucks the surface of the water down, and it creates a different ripple. So what you're going to see is a bunch of like real tiny uniform waves, and it could be the size of 50 yards. It could be 100 yards. It'll just look like a stain on the water, a different texture. So when you're glassing, you're looking around, it's like, oh, hell, there's a flat spot right over there. And the water literally goes flat. You know, let's say you got 10, 12 knots, 15. When it's the rougher the water is, the better they stand out. It's when there's not much, like when there's not much wind, is when you're really like You really got to pay more. Not that you're not paying attention, but it's a little harder to see them. But when you got like, let's say 10 knots of breeze, 10, 12 knots, it sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yep.
And like I said, you can watch it. And you can see it, and then you run up to it, you sonar, and then you get on them and hope for the best.
So it's really just a change in the way that the surface looks.
Yes, that's exactly it. It'd be like if you're walking along the beach and you look, and some people are oblivious to a riptide, but our eyes are trained for that. All you watermen surfers out there, you guys, oh look, it's a riptide right there. What an idiot! He just got sucked into it and got sucked out to sea. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just you dealt with it all your life. You've been around it as a kid, and you know what the hell you're looking at.
And it's all different. That's the thing, Roy. And I'm glad that you're here Michael and I, we talk every Tuesday, but to have you here to justify what him and I talk about, it is all that. So gang, listen carefully. Roy, we talked about 4 different things really fast. We went over it: a breezer, a flat spot, shiners, puddlers, foamers. All this stuff is different. It's totally different. But like Roy say, your eyes are trained to it. So we only got about 15 minutes. Well, this could take the next couple of weeks, but Roy, what's the difference between a puddler and a breezer? What's a breezer? What's the shiners, and what's the foamer?
All right, so a puddler is like, let's say again, you'll see this a lot when it's like grease calm, and you'll look, and all you're gonna see is like the tail fin or the dorsal of a fish and it just comes up and breaks the surface of the water. That's all you're gonna see. That's all you're gonna see. So if you fish freshwater, it'd be the equivalent of looking at a bunch of carp on the surface. You see carp when they're up there, boop, cruising across the lake. You just see there could be 15 or 20 of them, and they're just dimpling. And then they'll go down, and they'll come back up and dimple. A lot of times, like that, like puddlers, same thing. You see them, and they break the surface just enough to where you just see little rings, like a raindrop hitting a puddle of water, I guess would be the way to describe it. And you're gonna see, you'll look, and it's like all you're looking at is, like I said, the tip of their dorsal and the tip of their tail as it's going back in her. And a lot of times that fish it'll be spread out like a film. Let's say there's 100 fish, but they'll take up 50, 60 yards of water, and it's like a sheet of them. I mean, you get up to them, there's nothing underneath them. You'll go, oh man, here we go, and you get to, it's just albacore are really good for that. Luckily they jump on the jigs, or you start getting scattered fish on both sides on the sonar. You just throw bait and shut it down and hope they get on you.
But it's all about keeping your eyes peeled as a captain, because we're seeing all this stuff, and I know you've many times, as we grew up in this industry, as we learned by listening to the captains that we work for, Roy, and then trying to explain it to the young people that work for us today and breaking it down. It's a skill to see this fish and know the difference between the puddler, the shiner, the breezer, and then we all love the foam. And when it's foaming, there's a pretty good chance you're going to get a nibble.
Yep.
When it goes to the foam, if you can fly the kite like Roy and you see some foam, there's about 99.9% chance you're going to get a nibble, right?
Your bit.
Oh yeah, we can drop something in there. Hopefully get smoked.
Yeah, you know what's funny is I put out a ton of videos, Roy, and we talk about on my videos, because I got a bunch of stuff from Air Pelikia Carl, who's a bitchin' dude, and he gave me some great footage. And we call them foamers. You, me, Michael, the West Coast, we call them foamers. When that stuff hits on my social media and we say foamer, oh my God, you wouldn't believe the violent comments I get from people that's not what that is. That's not a foam, that's a boil. You don't know nothing. You have no clue what you're talking about. I'm like, well, it looks like foam to me. That's why we call it. That's why I was told it's a foamer.
It's 10,000 boils.
Yeah, 10,000. Well, the funny thing is, when you spot one of these foamers at 3 miles away, 4 miles away, and you got to run to it, the thing is up and down, 2 or 3 times.
Yep.
It's like, and no, so just keep going this way, and then, oh, there it is again. Go 15 left, it slid down a little, or whatever. But now it does from a distance. It's straight foam. I mean. Yeah, when you get there, you get to see the individual boil. Yeah, it's a boil, but when you're looking at it from 2 or 3 miles away, it's straight foam.
Yep.
Yeah.
Boy, talk to me a little bit about the difference between like a temperature break and a current break. What are you looking for when you're in the wheelhouse and you're looking for breaks? What can you explain to us what you're looking for specifically in the water?
Specifically in the water, a lot of times, like you said, you'll actually see. If it's, am I still here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Loud and clear.
Well, you'll actually see a substantial break on the surface of the water. But let's say if guys are working a break, let's say the water goes from 66 even to 66 and a half. You got that half a degree break. A lot of time what the fish will do, they'll go up against that water, and then they'll just stay on the edge of that water.
Back and forth,
and if it's a hard edge, like I said, a substantial break, it's like an invisible fence. They won't go through it. They'll sit there and everything gets stacked up against it. The bait gets stacked up against it. The fish get stacked up against it, and a lot of times you can track these breaks where they'll be in existence for 4 or 5 days, and everyone stays on it. You got all these boats are out there, and they're tracking it. You can see it's going from southeast to northwest. It's going up, it's going up, it's going up. All of a sudden, we get a crappy storm like this. Boom! It blows that water apart. Now the fish are gone. That's the stage we're in right now. Weather's crappy. For one, guys can't get out there and look around for it. They've been on it. Out to the west, they've been doing good, seeing fish, but now it's all scattered. For one, guys weren't able to stay on it. These guys are very, very good. This San Diego fleet, these guys are second to none. They get on these things and they just stay on it. I mean, there's no other way to put it. And then there'll be 4 or 5 boats coming out. Okay, let's say it's the Shogun Excel, Royal Star. We're all out there looking. It's your guard now. You keep track of the thing.
Right.
So we go out. We're on it. We're doing good. We're doing our trip. We pass the information on to the Red Rooster, the Vagabond, whatever. You see what I mean? Now it's your job to stay on top of it. You see what I mean?
Yep.
And
Roy, is a half a degree enough to make a difference? So you said you go in 60-degree flat water, and all of a sudden it's 60.5. Is that enough of a temperature break to create like you said, an invisible fence?
Yes, absolutely.
Half a degree.
Yeah, I've seen it where 4/10.
Really?
Yeah, 2/10. It's 60. It's like you can see where the fish will be in the transitional water, where the water that, like, as the temperature starts to change, it won't be right up against it, but it'll be 1/8 of a mile off of it.
Okay.
So as the water is going from 60, it's going from 60 to 63, 62 and a half, whatever. And right where it starts to mix, the fish is along that part of it. It just, it's obviously they are where you find them, but if you key in on that, you stay, and you can stay in that water, you're going to do good. So like, we look at that. I know I look at that meter more than look at that temperature gauge more than look at the philometer. It's like you're constantly just staring at it. And you look, all of a sudden, let's say you're out there and you start seeing chunks of kelp, or you start to find a bunch of kelp patties. 9 times out of 10, you're going to look up and that water temperature's done something. It's either rose 3 or 5 degrees or a degree, or it's dropped. But there's a reason all that water creates an eddy. So you get these kelps, and the water will actually just swirl, and you know the kelps will be in it, and they'll just get stuck in that, you know.
And it can be as much as a half a degree is what's so fascinating to me. It doesn't have to be 60 to 63. It can be 60 to 60.5.
Yes.
And down as little as a 0.2 of a degree makes a difference.
2 or 3 tenths. I've seen that with bluefin, yeah.
That is so
And you can see that with fish that are biting too. You'll be in water that's 66 degrees, and you see fish like crazy, and they don't bite, and then all of a sudden you find the same exact sign of fish, and the water is half a degree warmer, and they're biting nails.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's just weird. Like I said, that water temperature is extremely important.
I think it's more art than science, though, don't you?
Oh yeah, no, it's yeah, I guess you would say that. I mean, like I said, you're constantly. I mean, you run over a position where the water just dropped 3 tenths, you're not seeing nothing, or 4 tenths, whatever. You turn around, and you go right back a mile back down into that warmer water. I'm done going out in that cold water. I'm going to concentrate my efforts in that strip of water or in that area. You know, you'll sit there, because a lot of guys just sit there and you're doing good. Well, you want to go into the warm water to push the envelope and see. Well, let's just see what happens when we go a little further this way. And you know, after a mile or two, if you're not seeing any more fish, you're not seeing crap, you go run back in there, and you go back and get to work. I mean, you'll start seeing single fish, double fish, bird sign, fish jumping, and whatever. And like I said, it's all associated with those temperatures, water temperatures.
Does the upswelling have a lot to do with it out here? Do we get a lot of effects from the upswells?
The upwellings, yeah, they roll the water over.
Okay.
You know, like now you get these big swells and winds, so it's sucking the water from down below. The wind blows across the surface. It causes like a big suck. It just rolls the water. That's when they say the water rolled over. Yeah, because it pushed all the cold water into the cold water, and it just turned into like a washing machine. It just rolls the water over. It sucks the cool water from down below, and just blows your break apart.
Because the wind's blowing across the surface, and it's pulling that warm water, and it's pulling that cold water up underneath it.
Yes, and it's just like I said, it's just swirling around like a washing machine. And then pretty soon, if there was a break there, or what was there, it just gets blown apart. It just disappears.
So do the fish.
Yes.
I want to bring up a point. The boat Michael drives, the boat Roy drives, the boat that I grew up driving, we're driving around at 9 knots, 10 knots, maybe some of the high 11 knots.
Maybe.
So it starts to make it a little bit simpler to put that puzzle together for us driving around slower speed, even when we're traveling. We're watching that temperature. We're paying attention. Or if you put someone else on the wheel, you're like, hey, every once in a while, look at that gain. Let me know if it went up or down, because we can backtrack. But you guys, and this is what I tell everybody on my website all the time, you need to slow down. Yeah, I know your boat does 45 knots. I know it does. And it's cool to see you go flying through the fleet at 45 knots. That's crazy. But you're missing a ton of shit, right, Roy?
You're running
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, we're stuck driving around, 10 miles an hour, 11 miles an hour. Some of these guys, like you said, they're just their propellers are in the water, and they're just blowing by all kinds of cool stuff.
Exactly. And it's hard to look. You could have the $1 billion pair of gyro stabilizing binoculars, but at 48 knots, you cannot see out of them.
You can't see anything. I've always said it's a 10 knot ocean.
Yeah,
that's it. I'm always getting in trouble with my wife driving on the freeway, because I'm always driving like, but I'm used to driving around at 10 miles an hour. I think I'm hauling ass on land. I'm going 55. That's the speed limit.
Oh yeah,
65. That shows how long I've been driving.
Yeah. But what I wanted you to understand, though, gang, is Roy, Michael, a lot of the captains that we've had on here, they start to dissect the ocean, and we start to see what we call bubbles of water, because in our minds, when we're talking about a bubble, it's because Roy drove to the east and then it dropped, drove to the west, then it dropped, then drove to the south, and now he's made a circle in his mind. That's when we're calling it a bubble of water, because that's how we're thinking of this. So I'm just trying to help people understand the terminologies that we're using when we're talking about all this cool stuff that we're talking about today. We're breaking down the water all day long in our heads. Plus, if we had a bubble and it's 4 or 5 miles behind us and we ain't found nothing now, we're turning around and driving back to that bubble. Can you kind of talk about that? You kind of talked about it a little bit on the live show the other day, Roy, which was really cool when you were working the bank and you were kind of talking about that fish is in that bubble of water.
Oh yeah, no, that was all current driven, but what you're saying about a bubble is you can actually, you know, they got these terrafin charts now and stuff that a lot of your users that your guys can look up and use, and you can see, you can actually, if you know how to read it, you look at it and it'll actually show you if they got a good shot, you know, what that water temp is or was, you know, depending on what day the shot was taken. But if you look at it religiously, like a lot of the one day guys, and then they have another system. It's a 50-meter chart that shows you the water that's what all the seiners and stuff use, and it's very effective. And you can see these bubbles of water. You can sit there and get some positions off of that, and then you aim for that, and you go look and oh look, there's something here. It isn't like it's more of a science. You know, before the old school way was like what Dave was just saying. We're dry. We go this way, it's cool. This way, it's cool. This way, it's cool. This way, it's warm. You know, that's when you're just paying attention. Okay, well, now we're going to concentrate on this. But then all of a sudden, somebody that has that imaging program, oh, yeah, look, you're right in the middle of a bubble of water. It's like, oh, okay, good. I guess we got lucky and we're in the bubble, you know, because here's where the fish is. You know, and for your guys that are out there, they get this. You look at this water, like let's say after this big storm, we got this big blow, it came through, everything's all screwed up. Once everybody can get back out there, they're going to get on that 50-meter chart. They're going to look at it and see where that water is forming, or if it's come back together. And let's say it's 8 miles from where it was, or it's 10 miles from where it was, and then that's where they're going to concentrate their efforts. You know, you get all these guys that get out there and start driving around. Okay, the water, it gives you the surface water temperature and then the water that's down there 50 meters. You know,
that's pretty cool. What about
it's all satellite.
How much does the moon phase play into these pelagics? Primarily the tuna.
I'm gonna, you know what? Personally, it's not gonna matter what it is, because we're gonna go out there and fish 110%. So we're gonna get what we're gonna get. You know, right. You know, there's gonna be times where I've seen it where you're not supposed to catch anything. Oh, it's a full moon. It's this, it's that, and then you go out there and you knock the hell out of them. And then another time where everything's perfect, we got the right moon phase. I got the passengers always, oh man, we got a good moon phase. We got this and that, and we go out there, we don't catch shit. It's like, what happened? The fish were there, they just didn't want to eat. So I don't. For some people, like, okay, if you're fishing white sea bass, yes,
all the difference in the world. Yep.
All the difference in the world, because the squid's gonna ball up, spawn, and all that chain reaction is gonna, yes. For that type of stuff, I agree. Fishing for orangemouth corvina, there's gonna be a grunion run. Yes, they're gonna show up. Everything's gonna be beaten up on them grunion. In the middle of the ocean, I'm sure it has something to do, but regardless, I've seen too much good fishing when it was supposed to suck.
Too much bad.
It sucked when it was supposed to be good. You know,
somebody was
I'm
talking
probably
to me
the
about
wrong guy to ask for that. I mean, you know, we're not going to tie the boat up because the moon phase isn't right. We're just going to go out there and fish our ass off and see what we come up with.
Well, I'm thinking for like more of like the recreational guys, not you. You guys are fishing 365 days a year for all intent and purposes. But
Yeah.
a guy that's got a weekend available maybe, and what I know when we were fishing the albacore, it seemed like the 2 weeks, 3 weeks prior to a full moon, it would just keep building, and then maybe the day or 2 days before the full moon, it would just max out. Full moon would come up, and it would just be like a light switch went off, and that whole 30-day cycle would start over. I don't know if it's consistent, but I know for the few seasons that we were really running hard, it seemed like going into the full moon, that week before the full moon on the albacore and the tuna, that seemed they get real aggressive. But
yeah, well, there it is again. That like I said, it probably has something to do with it. But you were there when it was good.
yeah.
I mean, that's. I mean, I know my dad was really big on the moon, and I'd call him up on land, and I'd sit there and I'd talk to him. Hey, fishing sucks, whatever. And he would just look up at the sky. I swear to God, he'd look at the moon. He goes, the moon hasn't set yet. Because wait till he look at, and I've seen him do it before. He'd sit there and look at his wristwatch, and he go, 3 o'clock they'll start biting. I'm like, huh?
That brings me to my other.
And all of a sudden, the moon sets, and you end up catching 200 or 300 albacore. You drove around, but the thing is, you drove around all day with the fish. You're seeing them all day. They're not biting. They're not biting. And all of a sudden, boom, there it is.
When he said the moon set, that brings me to my question about the solar lunar axis. When we were doing the swordfish, the deep dropping from the swordfish, we were really trying to time when that moon would set during the day. The 2 hours before and the 2 hours after the moon set. And it would happen like it's quadrants. It's four times in a 24-hour cycle, when that moon would either be setting or rising, and it would be exact opposite to where the sun was. So those 90-degree crosses seem to be very, very productive for the deeper, for the fish that were chasing bait, like you said. Not so much the pelagics, but the stuff that's associated with a concentration of bait down deep.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I just we were really gearing our trips around that 4-hour window between the moon set, before a moon set and after a moon set. Didn't matter what phase the moon was in. Didn't matter if it was new or full. It just, when does that cross the axis? And you think about it, because that moon crosses and it starts pulling all that current to the Pacific. As the tide goes out, and then the tide comes back in. So there's a lot of pull going on down deep.
Yeah, and it's just like if you're anchored up at an island, same thing. I mean, during the full moon, I remember fishing in La Jolla as a little kid. It would be a river, just downhill current, just smoking 2 knots. Hard to catch anything. As soon as that current would back off, boom, we start hooking fish.
And your dad was saying that 50 years ago, checking the moon, going, the moon hasn't set yet. What?
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, it was pretty comical.
It's like, middle of the day. What are you talking about, the moon set? Well, it's set over here somewhere. Hadn't gone down yet. Give it another half an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, no, I'd call him often just to, if obviously fishing was slow, just to pick his brain. But anyway.
Well, I got a good question from my good buddy Matt Ryan. He's asked this question a couple times when I've had you on the show, Roy, and I haven't really asked you yet. You've been doing this for so long, and you've seen so much phenomenally cool stuff going down to Clipperton and all the other places you've gotten to go. What's the most memorable fishing trip that you've had that you just go, dang, I wish I would have had a camera. I want to go back to that day and change something that I did. What's that trip? There's a trip. I know there's a trip I got. I know there's one Michael has. What's yours?
It's a tough question.
Man, that's tough. That's a lot of good fishing. Shoot. Man. I don't know. I'm trying to think of one. I mean.
All right. I'll pinpoint.
Maybe yeah, no, that's tough. I mean, I've been on some really incredible fishing trips where yeah, that's a tough one.
The first time, okay, forget about it. The very first time because there's a lure for Michael, me, everybody on the West Coast. The first time you went to Clipperton, that is got to be like the pinnacle of the sport fishing long range thing. Yeah, it could suck, but the lure in your mind, what's going to happen, and you get there and you see that atoll, and how spectacular was that?
That's an easier one. Yeah, no, it was cool. I mean, the first time I remember going there, it's when the islands had first closed, and we went down there on a tacos trip, and Frank was driving, and we're driving around. It was pretty cool because every time you'd see a meter mark, we just kick it out of gear, and everybody had sinkered up. You know, the guys that had sinkers on were doing better than the guys that were fly lining, obviously, because there was a lot of birds involved, and you always hear about the birds or a pain in the butt, but whatever. You know, the guys that would get down and let's say we ran over 3 fish, nose hook baits, drop them down, boom, you hook 3 fish, and they could be 100 to 250 pounds, whatever. You know what I mean? And that to me was cool because every single time we ran anything over, you just pull it out of gear, guys drop baits, boom, you'd get bit. And I think that trip we ended up with, I forget how many over 2, but it was just cool. And then at night, fishing with the PL68s, just drop them down, wind them back fast. It's no different than this what we're doing for this bluefin. 90% of the time you get bit on the sink, and you know, it's cool watching guys use lures catching, you know, 150, 200 pound tunas, you know, at night. And a lot of kamikazes. I remember that there was a lot of fish that would somebody would get bit and they wouldn't realize they had the fish on. Like I remember there was this guy Tom, I think it was Tom Hoskins. He got a 284 pounder, and Daryl and Frank had just thrown on like a 150 pounder, and I was putting the tags on it, and then the cook comes up to me and he says, "Hey Rosie, look at this big tuna swimming next to the boat." I go, hang on, I'm dealing with this fish, right?" He goes, "No, it's right here under the light." And I go, "Okay, hang on, Jim, hang on." I get done. I look over the side, and here's this giant yellowfin tuna. Literally, it's laying against the hull, and it's like in slow motion. I go, "Holy shit!" I run over, get the gaff. I'm ready. I'm waiting for it to rip the gaff out of my hands. I gaff it, and then I go, "Get another gaff, get another one." So passengers that were sipping coffee, they're all gaffing into this thing. So we got 4 gaffs in it. And like I had the thing half the tail out of the water, and the passenger that caught the fish is on the other side, and he's got his fishing rod standing next to him, and he's got the line wrapped around his elbows, right? And he's going like this, like he's trying to break it off.
He thinks he's stuck
and the head's going thunk thunk against the hull, thunk thunk. And I go, hey, stop pulling. He goes, "I'm stuck." I go, "Come take a look at what you're stuck on." So I go, "Just cut your line. Don't worry about it." So he cuts his line. He comes over, and we open the gate. And we drag this giant. It was 284 pounds.
And he thought he was stuck on the gear.
Because I was watching him. He's like he thought he had a skipjack on there, and that was it. He got bit. And the rod tip just was vibrating and like this, real spastic. And he goes, "Oh, I must have got stuck in the wheels with my skipjack." But that's the kamikaze against the hull, gap it and sew it on. So that was the one thing that was interesting about that place, was that there was a lot of that type of fish caught. As far as they freak out when they get line in their mouth. I remember another trip where somebody's fishing a big black skipjack, and all of a sudden there's a 220 pounder laying up against the hull. We gaff it, we throw it on, and there's spectra. It's caught in it's like this, in the jaws of the mouth like this. It just, like it made a pass at the skipjack or whatever, but the spectra got caught in his teeth. The thing freaked out and shot up under the lights. We gaffed it, and then we had no one. So then we're like, whose line is this? So we start pulling it. And there's a guy on the other side of the boat. "I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. It's not my fish." And it's like, "You might want to come claim this." And he goes, Oh, hell yeah, that's my fish. 220 pounder. He's like, yeah, I caught that.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah, just like I said, they freak out. That place, I've seen that happen more than any other place I've ever fished. That I don't know if it's the water temperature or what, but you get a lot of those kamikaze type fish where at night they just freak out and they shoot up next to the boat and just start doing donuts.
Yeah, they don't know what to do. They're completely disorientated.
Yeah. Oh yeah. For sure.
And something interesting for all of you when we're done with the show today, just go Google Earth or Google Maps, Clipperton Island, and go. You guys drove all the way there from San Diego?
Yeah. What is that, a 6-day trip?
It was 6 days. 6 days of driving, straight driving.
One way.
One way.
One way.
Yeah, one way.
Yeah.
It was beautiful though. It was cool. We got to
I'll take
a lot of great inshore, a lot of good inshore fishing. You know, a lot of good inshore fishing, guys with their poppers and stuff. A lot of blue star jacks and stuff, and you know, catch and release, all that stuff, and a lot of grouper. We had a couple nice meals there out of that. But it was cool. It was fun. A lot of water consumption. Oh my God. I remember I'd go out in the skiff with the people to go fish the reef. I would drink 10 bottles a trip. We're only out there for, I think it was hour and a half or 2-hour rotations, but we would literally take a case of water.
It'd be gone.
It'd be gone, and you wouldn't pee. You wouldn't piss a drop. You just sweat it out of you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting about that, you know. So, but it was nice. It was fun. Do I need to go back? No.
Yeah.
Like I said,
that sums it up right there.
But
now, Guadalupe, I'd go back to in a heartbeat.
Oh, absolutely. Oh yeah, that place is magical. Oh my God,
it really is.
You know, it's so funny. Even if you don't catch anything,
it's still magical.
The people love it. The passengers love to go there. It's just like it's almost like a bucket list.
It creates its own weather pattern. It's such an amazing island.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No,
straight up on the north end there, and it just tapers off, and it just creates a whole weather pattern as stuff moves past it.
Oh, I know the amount of wind that thing makes. I mean, I remember going by there, and Loomis is driving, and I go, Steve, how many knots of wind do you think that is? He goes, I don't know, 40, 50. And as we're talking, the bow gaffs are so bent over. One of them just went, and it just folded in the holder. It was an older gaff, but still, for that velocity, it just folded that thing and broke it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that was some serious wind.
Yeah,
very serious.
And then when you get to see that shark show up, that 15-foot shark, and everything goes into slow motion. The first time you ever see it, it's the most incredible thing. I know it sucks, Roy, because you're trying to get those big tuna, but when the people have never seen that animal and he shows up, it is an incredible event, right?
Oh yeah, no, it is. It is. I remember there was a guy up on the starboard bow, and he's sitting there, and I hear, oh, cool. I go, what's? And we lost like 6 in a row. You know, the sharks kept eating them, and these are like 60 to 80 pound fish. So this guy goes, oh, that was worth the price of admission. I go, really? All right. Well, the first 4 fish that guy caught, like after the 4th one they took, the dude just had a meltdown. And I go, hey, what happened to the price of admission? He's like, F that, that's 4. I go, guess what? This is only the first afternoon. You got 5 more days, buddy. Now you know how I feel.
Isn't there
like, F these sharks?
Well, isn't there a window there around Guadalupe where the sharks come in to breed, and there's like a 4-month window when they're there, and then they all take off?
Disappear. Yeah, they disappear. Yeah. They fatten themselves up.
Yep.
They fatten themselves up on our dime, or they used to. I don't know what they're feeding on now. They got to go back to eating sea lions and scad mackerel or something. But we haven't been able to help them out. That's for sure.
I'd give them the sushi.
Oh yeah, the tax man. They're like I said. You'd have to make a lot of moves at that place. You know, because you can't just sit there and keep feeding them. They just get more and more on you. But anyway,
the craziest thing for me was to see how that animal, and we're talking about white sharks, gang, how he can cut that fish in half. And it doesn't even, it's the most crazy. Here's a 60 or 70-pound fish, and they cut it in half, or they cut it off like that. Where we're used to on Southern California, the sea lions grabbing your fish and dragging it around until the head rips off. Down there, it's the most, I know, Roy, you're over it. You hate it. You don't even want to talk about it anymore. But when I first saw it, it was the most incredible thing I'd ever seen, because your tuna looks like it was cut with a pair of scissors. And it's like that.
Oh, scalpel.
It's instantaneous when he bites it in, and he just bites it up right off to the head. And it's just, what the hell just happened, right?
Oh yeah, no, it is. It's like I said. I mean, it is what it is. It was just part of the deal of going there. But as long as you can keep, like, say 6 or 8 hooked at a time, your chances go way up. But when it's scratch fishing, you just get worked.
Yep.
You know, until it's bite time, and then they can't eat them all. You know, I tell you what was cool was there was this, this 18-foot white swimming around the boat like it owned the place, which it, sure, yeah, it's an 18-foot shark, right? All of a sudden, this mako shark shows up like a 700-800-pound female, and that white shark disappeared.
Really?
It did not. Yeah, that mako took over. I mean, that now if something happened to your fish, they just took the tail off. So like the mako, because makos like they chop the tails off of stuff. So at least you get pretty much the whole fish back except the tail. So that part was cool. But so he was like helping us out. But and the other cool part was, like I said, was watching that white shark that was up on the surface cruising around. It went down to the bottom, and it didn't mess with any more fish after that, because that mako showed up. And like I said, I don't know if it swam away, went somewhere else, but later, I don't know. All I know is when that thing showed up, all the white sharks left.
Huh.
There you go. You want a pet mako.
Yeah, no.
Another thing I found really amazing is the way that white shark, and I'm just geeking out because we got Roy here today, and it's pretty cool because he spent so much time with all these weird animals that we only dream about or see once or twice in our lifetime. But when I was there, those white sharks don't chase those tuna. They just they're going like a knot. Maybe not even a knot. They're just barely moving, and they just wait for that yellowfin to get worn. They don't go after them in the beginning of the battle. They know. They're so goddamn smart. They're just so smart. They just wait, and then when it's straight up and down and it's in the depths, done.
Yep, that's it.
That was a fun 45 minutes for nothing.
45 minutes you'll never get back.
Yeah.
You know what's so incredible about that too? There's and this has happened on 17, 18 day trips too, is the sharks will swim by and they won't even touch the fish, but it's your line's under so much strain and it just touches their skin and it's boom, you're done.
Yep.
He just goes boop, and you'll watch it. Oh man, there's a shark down there, and he just swims by, doesn't touch the fish, but just your line touching his body, and it's like sandpaper, like a file, and then just boom, you're done.
Yep.
It's pretty crazy. It is. Mike Stout. You know a guy named Mike Stout?
Oh yeah.
He said he caught a big yellowfin on your lure rod.
Oh yeah, no, it's so funny. I was talking about that. He had a 200-pounder on that. We had a 30, like we were fishing those lower banks. We had that. It was just a regular stock Alua, and we had 10 fish over 2 on that rod. For that season.
10 fish, 200 pounds on how big was the rod? 9 foot?
It was the regular 9.3 Alua, the red, white, and blue one.
Jeez.
I gave it to Joe Pfister, and it was so hammered. It didn't have a reel seat on it, so we would have to put bolt the reels onto it. And it was so hammered by the time he got it, because I had to build it up with duct tape, because all the foregrip was gone. They ended up chopping it in half and throwing it in the trash can, but he was going to save it to have it at the show. But it was funny, like we were fishing the lower banks, right? And there was a few fish just boiling around, and then this one fish got set in a pattern where the guy would throw every third bait that hit the water, there'd be a boil. And I was watching it. You know what? Screw that fish. I'm gonna catch it. So I said, Eddie, go put that Tiagra on that Alua. He goes, what do you do with that? I go, just get it ready, give me a hook, and bring it back. So he set it all up, brought it back down, and then the guy was on the tank. I said, throw your regular 2, don't throw the third one. And I know it took a greenie, and he threw the 2 baits, and the third bait was my mackerel. It hit the water. I just put the reel in gear and held the rod up like you're fishing beneath it. The thing just goes tick, boom, hook it. And then there was a guy that was having a tough trip, and I said, hey, come here. Hang on to this. You're going to like this one. And I handed it to him, and he got it. It was 218.
How many hours later could he even walk?
No, what was so cool? This is a funny thing. It didn't take that long. It took maybe 45 minutes. Because when the rod would unload, like we put the rod on the rail, you put the foregrip, so the thing would, like, you're almost standing straight up and down. So when it would unload, you're unloading 8 feet of rod. Yep. So you're getting a lot more line back. Because it was funny because that's messed. They were using other words. Oh, that's messed up. I go, it'll be fine. He ain't pulling nothing all day. Just let him pull on this. And the thing came in quicker than a regular rod. And I was laughing. I go, you see that? I'm going to make this thing a regular set. I'm going to change the reel on it. So then I put a little accurate 30 on there because at first it was a 50. Now it's kind of bulky. So we put the accurate 30 on there, and it's a lot better for casting.
Unbelievable. Huh? Who'd have ever thought fishing those yellowfin tuna with a jig rod?
Yeah, but if you're using
I'm not recommending that, but that was good for that. It was good for spot casting. Yeah. I mean, there'd be fish blowing out. It's like casting a jig at them.
And handing it off.
130-pound mono and a 6-0 hook, and you just hit them in the face.
Unbelievable. We can do this all day long, gang. We got Roy Rose here. The stories are incredible. If you guys have something you want to ask him real quick, because I went way over. I told him an hour. We're at an hour and a half right now. Michael Fowlkes has a ton of editing to do.
That was a quick half an hour.
Yeah, right?
Well, the other day I did the same thing to Tim. Tim said, hey, I'll give you 15 or 16 minutes, Hanson. And that's about all I can give you. And the next thing you know, we look up. It's been an hour and 48 minutes. I'm like, Tim, it's been an hour and 48 minutes. He's like, I know.
Oh yeah, no, that was cool.
It's such a treat, Roy, to get to listen to you and hear the insights that you have from having been in the wheelhouse your whole life. And that's the stuff most of us never even get to. We have no idea what you guys are doing up there most of the time. And it's just fascinating to hear what you look for and what you listen to and how you guys communicate. And just how you pass the baton off, it's just, here you go, angler. You're on them for the next 3 days.
Yeah.
It's just so interesting to hear all your the insights.
Oh, good. It's been fun. It's I like to spread the news, I guess.
Spread the news, baby.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. Every time you're on here, the thing goes bananas. Everybody's on here watching, millions of questions. And how did you like filling in on the long range boats before you ended up working full speed
on the
Royal Star?
Oh, it was fun. I got to see all the different operations. That right. To me was really fun. Like going. I filled on the Vagabond, the Searcher, some day and a half boat, stuff like that. Just just to stay busy, independence, and all that stuff. And that was fun. It's good to see all the different operations, see how they do things, and all that stuff.
Right. No, we talked about it before when you were on here. I know you enjoyed it. You got to see the guys that you've been talking to, your code group, finally sitting down with them, being in the wheelhouse with them. It was a different experience and it was fun. Gang, we got a couple of things we have to mention here. First of all, Thursday is a very, very special day for my family and the industry, really. My father was one of the guys. Frank Lepresti, Roy's boss for a very long time, started out pinheading for my dad. And my dad, we're celebrating Don Hanson Day on Thursday. It's a pretty special day, gang. And we're going to be down there fishing on one of the pride of his fleet, the Clemente. I got a little poster right there. My sister and my brother are selling half day and 3/4 day tickets for 50% off. You can buy up to 10 at a time, which is incredible. She offers that every year for Don Hanson Day. It's May 15th. It's Thursday. The boat, the 3/4 day, normal 3/4 day boat's got some spaces available. The boat we're all fishing on has been sold out for a year. But we'll be on the Clemente, but the Dana Pride and the half day boats will all be running that day. And then at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we're all going to meet at John's Fish Market. Those of you that have to work that day, we're all going to celebrate where John's Fish Market is. It's right between my dad's office and the fish market. There's a square there called Don Hanson Square. That's where we're going to celebrate my father's life. We're all going to be there hanging out. Michael Fowlkes said he may make a guest celebrity appearance. Roy Rose would love to be there, him and his wife Lauren, but Roy's got to go to work again and go try to relocate those bluefin with the fleet. So he'll be out there getting the ever-loving bejesus beat out of him. We'll say a little prayer for you.
Thank you. Gonna need it.
And then on Saturday, the 17th, the CCA is having a award for Pete Gray. We all grew up listening to Pete Gray. Let's Talk Hookup. Michael Fowlkes been on the show. I was on it every Sunday for 10 years. It's going to be Saturday, May 17th, and it's going to be Apps and Taps in San Diego. The admission is $95 a person. The doors opens at 4 o'clock. Live music. Enjoy the brews, the apps, the local artists, and more. And they're going to be doing this, and all the money is going to benefit CCA California, Coastal Conservation Association of California, and it's Marina Village in the Baja Room, 1904 Covera Way, San Diego, California. You can also find out about it at the CCA website, gang. So check that out. Go there. Let Pete know what he meant to you. I mean, the three of us right here, we listened to Pete Gray's show pretty much whenever we had radio service because it was our lifeline to our industry. And Pete, like my dad used to say, Pete was one of the best things that happened to our industry, just like Michael Fowlkes and Inside Sport Fishing. Roy Rose will tell you, nothing was more fun than seeing us if he came out on our boats and filmed us, and then we could watch it on Fox Sports West and see Michael Inside Sport Fishing. We're like, that's me. That's me. It was an incredible time, right? It was pretty crazy. Roy to be on Michael's show was pretty sweet. And we also felt the same way being on Pete's show. Yep. You were the special guest in the morning on Saturday or Sunday mornings. You felt pretty special. I mean, Michael, you've been on there a bunch of times. Roy, you've been on there a bunch of times. So go there. Know how you feel about him. I made a cool little video. You guys will see it while you're there. I really appreciated being there with Pete. I remember when that show first started. Him and Marty Milner, one Adam 12. That was like, made it to the big time. If you were on that radio show in the morning, that was like a big deal. It still is. Yeah. So there's a lot going on this weekend, and let's hope that Roy finds that bluefin and the fleet gets back on him when this wind stops blowing. My goodness. Enough of this wind, right, Roy?
Oh, yeah. It's pretty windy right here. But is what it is. We have to deal with it.
You got anything else you want to ask Roy before we dump him off of the show, Michael?
No, it's just been a pleasure, Roy. I love it. I love getting to sit here and chat with you about it.
All right, thank you. Now it was a blast. I really had a lot of fun. My phone's about to die, so if I lose you,
okay.
I had a great time with you guys.
We're done, gang. There will be no show tomorrow. I'm flying up to SoCal for Don Hanson Day, so there's no show on Wednesday. Maybe tomorrow night. Al Clowers and I will be together tomorrow night. Al Clowers, Justin Botrell, and Pablo Fernandez are going to be with me on Don Hanson Day on the boat, and then all of our sponsors are showing up big time. It's going to be an incredible day on the Clemente. That was the queen of the fleet for a very long time. My dad was very, very proud of the Clemente. He built that in front of the Huntington Beach power plant back in 1964. So it's going to be a great event. I'm super excited to be on there. Him and I had some of the most phenomenal father-son fights you've ever seen in your life working together.
I remember seeing that boat, David.
You what?
I remember watching that boat get built.
Pretty amazing, right?
Right in the field, right there in front of the power plant.
I'll tell you, it's pretty fun when you're working with an old timer on the boat and he's your dad, and you can't even comprehend what it was like. 60 people, and he operated at that level all the time, and I could light him up like a firecracker, boy. I had it figured out. Oh my goodness! So it's going to be fun to be on the boat again. It's been a long time since I've been on the Clemente. I'm looking forward to it. Michael Fowlkes, as always, you make Tuesdays super enjoyable. I love having you on here. Roy Rose, every single time you're on the show, it lights up like a Christmas tree. You and Lauren go back and look at all the comments. You'll be blown away. The love for you in this industry, Roy, you can't believe it. I know it's hard to imagine. We talked about it a couple times. There's a lot of love for you, buddy. So don't believe all the baloney out there. Love you guys. Thank you for being on the show today. Everybody, thanks for watching, and I'll see you Thursday. We're going to be live all day on the Clemente. You're going to get to see everything. It's going to be insane all day.